good tournaments that I've had over the years, and a lot of them were when I could run a gun, and that's what I want to really base this whole section around. Um, is what situations allow you to do that, when you should do that, and again, like I said, it's fishing, so there's never a 100% answer. And again, just like the last seminar that we did, when a question comes to mind, just raise your hand and we'll address it right then. That makes my job a lot easier. So let's just get kind of into this. But it's just some stats right there. But really, when I look back, I could think way back to my team tournament days, and we used to fish the lake. And I'm sure a lot of people in this room have fished it plenty of times. That's Richland Chambers Lake, and that's really where I cut my teeth learning how to structure fish. Back in the '90s, Richland Chambers was new. It had a lot of submerged pond dams, road beds. It was a structure fisherman's heaven, and it had a lot of big fish. And one thing that me and my partner began to notice a lot of times when we pulled up to an area, we caught them really quick or we didn't. And, that always stuck. I think that lesson that I learned right there, um, and that was not the norm in those days for offshore fishing. A lot of times in a tournament, the norm was to go to a place, you get on it, you set and you wait, and you catch your fish one at a time, one at a time. And a few will move in, a few will move out. But what we began to learn was that when a place opened up, even if a boat had been there for a long time, uh, just say we were running a pond dam pattern, a submerged pond dam pattern. When a place opened up, a boat got off of it, it didn't have to sit very long. You pull in there and, you're inevitably going to be fishing different than the person who just left. I mean, everybody fishes different. But we noticed that that's when we would catch our biggest fish, was usually the first or second fish that we would catch. And usually, if we understood the place and understood, why the fish were setting on that place, we would catch them immediately. So I think that has stuck with me through the years, and really helped me develop a strategy that works for me um, in some during some seasons and in certain circumstances, and that's really what we're gonna talk about. So, um, when can you do it, and when can you not? So I know there's a lot of guys in here that fish team tournaments, and around this region, some of those tournaments like your Bass Champs and your Triple T's, those are big tournaments. 200, 300 boats, even on a lake like a Rayburn or something like that. Well, it gets occupied pretty quick. So that's a situation where I probably tend to say, well, I might need to hunker down, because there's just going to be less availability on the water. You start running around and, man, there's a boat where you wanted to go, and I don't I try to be as courteous as I can. If I can't get in there and manage the place with two boats, I'm not going to go in there. So that's always one scenario is how crowded is the lake, how much availability is there going to be, and you never really know until you start running. But I tell you what, in a tournament, sometimes, like we had Elite Series on Fork, not this last year, but the year before, and I had 10 places in a milk run, and I started to run them, and there's a boat on one, there's a boat on the next one, there's a boat on the next one, and that can really eat up your clock, and also just your confidence. When you're pulling up to a place and catching one, you tend to just get on the roll. You go to the next place and keep it going. But when there's something like boat traffic in the way of you making those critical moves at the right time of day, that can really hamper your tournament. So definitely how many boats are on the water, and really how big of a lake you're fishing. If you're fishing a 300 boat tournament on Toledo Bend, well, you don't have anything to worry about, versus if you're on Fork and you're fishing a Skeeter Owners tournament. Run and gun is not going to be really viable in that type of thing. Another one too, just like a good example of that would be like the open that we had on Rayburn. The Rayburn's a lake that I live on. I've learned the place.